You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace, you're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Herut, and I got my good brother Ra. How you doing?
Oh, brother, enjoying this solstice, renewed, refreshed, ready to hit this solar year. Guns a-blazing. How about yourself, my brother?
Hey, same here, man. Same here. You know, getting geared up, man, to, ready to take on whatever 2020 has in store. Indeed. But, before we get too far, I want to remind you all that this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group and Caliprusia Astrology. You can find Push It Forward Media Group at Push It Forward, PUSHITFWD on Instagram. You can find us on the web with the same spelling as our Instagram handle. That's PUSHITFWD.com. There we got short films. You can find this podcast there. We got a few little articles, different things like that, and we got some more things in store coming in 2020. Brother Y, tell them how to get in contact with you.
Yeah, so we'll be opening up the floodgates in the middle of January to kind of start off the new year with reading. So that'll be something to look forward to. Is if you're interested in getting your horoscope read or your chart done, definitely get at me. Quite a few people have so far, and seems like everybody is definitely getting their money's worth. But you can hit me up at caliprusiaastrology@gmail.com, or you can actually hit me up on Facebook at Shechem Ra, or even IG Shechem Ra. All three of those would definitely give me a line, and definitely if you have any questions or you're interested, that's the best avenue to reach me.
Good deal. So yeah, here we are, man. We right here, at the end, and we decided to, do something a little different, for the season finale, in lieu of this kind of a, once in a lifetime type of, celestial event going on. We decided to, drop a couple episodes on you at one time, a few episodes on you at one time to, round up the season and hold you over until we come back live. What you think about that, Brother Ra?
I think it's excellent, because what it's really doing is just segueing us for another better, more exciting season next season. Yeah. So we're definitely going to leave out with something for y'all to put your mind on, ride to, chill to, whatever it is that you do while you listen. You're definitely going to have plenty to listen to. So we are going to leave you with something until we return that will definitely keep you occupied.
Absolutely. And this episode would technically be episode 24. So that'd be got something real good in store. Before we get rolling into the topic, you want to answer a question?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so we got a question, and I think, did we answer? I don't think so. I'm gonna ask it anyway. Got a brother, one of our Instagram followers, asked about the Parvatana yogas, right? And he wanted to know, is a Parvatana yoga, is it almost like an exaltation, not exaltation, but is it almost like having a planet in its own sign, or how do you treat it?
Yeah, actually, it's a very good way to kind of surmise that particular placement. A Parvatana is what we call a mutual. It's in the West. It's what's called a mutual exchange, and it's just where two planets occupy each other's respective signs. And so, you have to treat it as a mixture of type of energies, almost like we talked about, like a chemistry type deal.
Yeah.
Where you have a chemical makeup that has a volatility factor that can switch and move back into an original state or change to another state. So parvatanas are very not volatile but unstable. And the reason why is because it all depends on the house that is being ruled, that rules it, and the house that is being placed in. Mm-hmm. So you can have a parvatana between various different all kind of different combinations. You can have a parvatana between the first and the fifth lord. You can have a parvatana between any house and any lord. But when you have it where it connects between a Kendra and a Tricone house, those are the best ones, right? Those are the ones that you really want to look to see what are the benefits from that. Then, of course, you have like a secondary grade, which mixes between a Kendra and a Tricone. Tricone is a Dastana, or a house which is the 6th, 8th, or 12th house. So any Kendra or Tricone house a Dastana house is not a Tricone house. A Dastana house is a 6th, 8th, or 12th house. Tricone is 5 or 9. So any time you have the Dastana 6, 8, or 12 involved with any type of exchange, it sullens or kind of dulls, or it doesn't do well, right? Mm-hmm. The last type is where you have what's called a Vipreet Raja Yoga. And Vipreet means that two negatives become a positive. So let's say you have the 6th and the 12th house exchanged. They kind of cancel each other's evils out. Mm-hmm. The 6th and the 8th house, 8th and the 12th house, those are Vipreet Raja Yogas. And so those are the ones that you can look to really see if the negative becomes a positive, and many times it does. In fact, I know someone who has a son that has that, and the negative came out of it that his son had to leave, but the positive came out of it that his son ended up getting into a very prestigious school because he left under duress. Yeah. So you see what I mean? Like the negative becomes a positive. That's also another type of Parvatana yoga. So these are qualified by not only the houses that they're placed in, but the houses that are ruled within that. And so you treat it as if it's in its own sign, but you also have to tailor it or adjust it or mend it to show its actual position. Yeah. And we're going to talk about one of those here very, very soon. So we're going to actually delve into one of those particular type of exchanges.
Indeed. So hopefully that answers your question pretty well. And yeah, I think this person we about to get into will further answer that question, I believe, as well.
Absolutely.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Brother Rod, this came from one of our listeners, right? This request, right?
Yeah. This request, the last person that requested, my brother Ijala, he called in and requested Richard. That's how you got Richard Pryor. So that was that request, and this request is by the tag or the moniker that I have. I'm not going to give the person's real name, but my Ot 687. You know who you are, so this one's for you, right? This is what you asked for, so this is what you're going to get, and we're definitely open to more suggestions, more requests. Anytime you all want to have someone done and it's a legitimate good time, this person happens to have a great time. So if you have those and we can get a good solid time, we'll do it. We'll break it down. We'll enjoy it. We'll have fun with it. And, we'll kind of use these as our learning tools to explore different things with regards to astrology. So my Ot 687, this one's for you.
Indeed. So yeah, y'all. I know we're wrapping up, but we're still available. So send your requests, and even some of the older ones, they're still in the queue. We haven't forgot about them. So they may, come up in the next season and whatnot.
Indeed.
Yep. So yeah, let's get into it. So who's the lucky person that we're breaking down today?
Well, the lucky lady goes by the name was born by the name of Anna Mae Bullock, right? Better known, also known as Tina Turner, right? And Tina Turner, it's not one that I would have thought to do.
No, not me either.
Because Tina's kind of life to me is a standard type of entertainer's life. You know what I mean? Like, she went through things that most entertainers go through that changes their perspective about things, And so, entertainers are in America. There's two types of stars, right? Most people don't know that politicians are referred to as stars. They're the big stars. And the lesser stars are the entertainers. That's in fact why you'll see that a lot of entertainers have a lot of their hands in politics, right?
Yeah.
So remember we talked about, did the show on the Raja Yoga's kingly statuses, right?
Yeah.
Well, kingly statuses can be in any various walk of life, whether it be Bill Gates with computers, whether it be Serena Williams with athleticism, whether it be Barack Obama in politics. All these guys have very powerful Raja Yogas. And so those kingly status yogas is what we're seeing in this example as well. It's not so evident because it doesn't always necessarily look like the standard practice of it. But when we talk about it today, you're going to see that this woman definitely has some very strong yogas, some strong placements in her chart that gave her fame, right?
Indeed.
In fact, most famous people, the signs, the ascendants that are easiest to be famous are Cancer and Libra. They're the two most usually, generally easiest. Those ascendants easily become well renowned.
Why do you say that?
Well, because you have to understand the nature of the ascendant. The planet that rules it shines.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moon shines brighter than any object in the night sky.
Yeah.
So by far, it has the propensity to attract the masses.
Yeah.
Venus, which is the second brightest in the evening, right? Let's talk about it. Moon is the brightest at night, obviously. Venus is the next brightest. She's the third brightest object in the sky, second at night, right? And Sirius is one of the brightest objects in the night sky as well, right? The star Sirius. So understanding that, it would make sense that the signs that are ruled, the ascendants that are ruled by planets that shine are easily noticeable. And it works the same way. Planets that are not so easy, that don't shine, like Saturn, right? They don't typically receive world renown unless their charts are placed in a certain way. Then they will. But mostly those Saturn type ascendants are background players. They can be foreground players like Barack Obama, but mostly Saturn is reserved. Saturn doesn't like to shine. Saturn wants to be the hand behind the hand.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the other ascendants, Mars rule. They're aggressive and fighting, but Mars, it shines. It's bright in the night sky, but not as bright as Venus, and definitely not as bright as the moon. So those planets that govern the ascendants that glow, that have some alluring attraction to them, those are the ones that easily climb to some type of public status or renown. So Tina's no exception to the rule. She's definitely one that her chart would be, to me, notable, and that at some point she would receive some status or some recognition of some kind. Starting off, Anna Mae was born in good old Nutbush City, right?
Wow.
Hey, she made a song about it. Here it is. There it go. Right. She was born November 26th at 11:39. Right. In Nutbush City at 10:10 p.m.
Yeah.
And so that places her right into Cancer Ascendant, right? Right into Cancer Ascendant. And so that
big up
Cancer ascendant.
big up to all the Cancer ascendants out there.
Big ups. What's up? We got one in the mix as well, right? So she's Cancer ascendant, and so Cancer ascendants, I know so many personal Cancer ascendants that they just do very well. Most Cancer ascendants I know do very well in life for some reason. And I think it's really because of the tenacity that the Cancer sign has, the relentless, heartfelt energy to get things done. Right? Cancer is, it's very heartfelt. So if it's something they're passionate about, something that they love, something that they can protect, nurture, something that can grow, any planet that's in the sign of Cancer grows. That's why Mars is debilitated there, because Mars grows within Cancer. Right, so when you have that Cancer ascendant, you have to look at the ascendant lord. That's the first rule of practice when we do this. Descendant degree, ascendant lord. Well, the degree is 24 degrees, which puts it well into Ashlesha. Ashlesha is usually born with some type of challenging circumstances surrounding the entry into this plane, because it's about squeezing, holding, not releasing. It's really about shifting your consciousness from the emotional sense of things to the universal sense. That's what Ashlesha really is. And so it's very hard many times. The ascendant degree will tell you kind of just like the ascendant tells you, the degree tells you even more about the perplexities that this person will deal with in their life. And Ashlesha is a very complex energy. It's ruled by the Sarpas, right, which are the serpents.
Yeah.
So the Naga, right, not the Nagas, but Shesha, which is the actual, you've seen it, it's a multi-headed serpent that the Hindu god or Indian god Vishnu lays on. That's the thing that kind of the totem or the animal kind of propensity that it's affiliated with is serpents, snakes. So a lot of times these individuals will hold on to problems a lot longer than they need to.
The Hydra.
Yes, Hydra as well. Yes, thank you. And the Greek terminology. And so these people will hold on to things a long time. These people will grasp and hold and hold and hold and squeeze until there's just no more squeezing. Something has to give, something has to change, something has to shift.
Yeah.
And so this is what you begin to see in her life pattern, these things that she will hold for some reason. And we'll see why and who. We pretty much know, most of us, but we'll explore it in an astrological sense.
One thing, if you don't mind real quick, I noticed that women with either Ashlesha ascendant or prominent moon or something like that, they're interesting. Like I don't know if you've noticed something interesting about women with that placement, with a prominent Ashlesha. It's something with men, some type of relationship, almost. I've even seen women have that. You ever heard the term man eater?
Oh yeah, they're seductive.
Yeah.
Very alluring. It's
Yeah.
a serpent. So it's like the serpent sitting there staring at you, and you can become allured and pulled into that hypnotic. They're very hypnotic.
Yeah.
If you look at Tina, she has that hypnotic serpentine look a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If you really look at her, you can see that seductive, sultry, you don't know what's going to happen behind these doors type energy. Right.
That's
you
a
look
way
at
to
Tina,
put it.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. You look at Tina, man. Don't look. Cancers don't sleep. Don't sleep, right? She's not Pushya. Pushya is the spiritual side of Cancer.
Yeah.
Right. Pushya is the real, that's the nurturer. Ashlesha is not the spiritual side. It's the side of the claws.
Yeah.
Right. And so those propensities to pinch and hold, right? And not only to pinch and hold, but think about it like a boa constrictor. Right? A boa constrictor can wrap around you, right? And it's so slow. you don't think the thing is going to squeeze you like that.
Till
But as it begins to increase its grip,
it's over.
you realize, wait a minute, I done got caught up. Right? And now you're a victim to someone's, in a lot of Ashleisha can have insecurities. Because it's ruled by Mercury. Mercury is the planet of reasoning, calculation, and intellect.
Yeah.
Well, you couple that with the water energy. What you think you're gonna get?
Confusion, or just loss.
Lots of mental interlacing, a lot of mental constructs, a lot of emotional strongholds that are wrapped around the ideas and beliefs of things. That's what Ashleisha really is about. Mm-hmm. So, moving into her destiny in her chart, she's got her ascendant Lord, which is the moon, at 14 degrees Taurus in the 11th house. Now, this, folks, is an exaltation. It's not exaltation by degree. The moon is exalted exactly at 3 degrees Taurus. However, it is still within 11 degrees of exaltation, which still creates a very strong moon placement. And I consider it close to being exaltation, even though technically the moon in this particular position would be what is considered Mula Trikona. Mm-hmm. That is where the moon is in its own sign. And how could the moon be in its own sign in Taurus? Well, there's some strange things about how the arrangements are with regards to exaltation, debilitation. There's just some fine lines and fine points we won't get in today, but at the same time, you must understand that there are degrees that we look for to give a real strong indication of exaltation. Without it, it's kind of like being next to the best, right? And her moon is definitely next to the best placement as far as the potential outcome of any type of moon placement. It's one of the better ones. So it starts life off with self-confidence. Strong personality, the ability to adapt and change, the ability, and I'm talking about the ascendant, because the ascendant Lord is in Taurus, so it's stronger. The personality is stronger. This person has the ability to know who she is and not get lost or caught up in the kind of things that go on around her. This is what the first house does for us. It gives us an anchor of who we are in this physical plane. Yeah. So she's very well anchored. You can see she has a very strong, determined personality. Right? So, ascendant Lord in the 11th house is also what we're looking at. And the 11th house is the house of gains. Now, you'll hear a lot of people talk about the 11th house in a negative sense. And there are some things that go, every house has a negative and positive to it. So that's just not fair. 11th house gets a bad rap. I'm telling y'all, the 11th house is one of the best houses to have your planets placed in, period. It just is, even in debilitation. Because the 11th house is a house that deals with long-term success, long-term gains, getting things after you've paid your dues, connections, knowing the right people. That's all 11th house stuff.
Yeah.
And so, no, it's not going to come off right off the money. But guess what else it is? Right? It's your elders, right? It's your friends. These people usually don't do you harm. Right? So you got to consider this. The ascendant Lord's in the 11th house. Very strong placement. Very powerful with regards to having a strong personality and having a strong sense of community and others. And plays well with others. She does well with others. She could probably walk into a group of all kinds of different people and pull in and make connections very quickly. So that's a very strong placement in my estimation, right? Some others might disagree. For the cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, the 11th house is what's called a Badakhshan house. I'm not going to get into the definition, but many say that it is a house that creates obstacles. Well, it could be that her obstacle was her own personality and the attractiveness or the alluring aspect of her personality, which attracted someone that wanted to control and manipulate that.
Yeah.
Right. So, going deeper in, we're not going to spend too much time on each topic because we can go deep on each one. We're going to just walk through it and look at it for what it is. So, we always qualify a placement by the Lord of the ruler of where that placement is. And so the moon is definitely placed well. Ascendant Lord is placed well, but the ruler of Taurus is not so well. And that lowers or lessens the degree of power that placement can yield, which Venus is in the 6th house of Sagittarius. So this shows, now, we see various things do different things. We see multiple things do one placement. Well, we know the moon is the mother, right?
Yeah.
And we know moon is mom, right? That means that the moon, the Lord of the moon, is 8 houses from its own rule, the moon's ruler is 8 houses away from itself, from its natural ruling sign.
Yeah.
So that puts a definite damper on the mother, creates a very, now here's the thing. So you look at it from the moon, 8th from the moon, and then you look at it from the ascendant. The moon's lord is in the 6th. So we have a double whammy. So that shows the mother definitely is unstable. Right? Rahu in the 4th house also adds into the equation unstable childhood. Right?
Yeah.
Very unstable childhood. And not to say she was in harm's way, but just the moving and the shifting and the changing, all that was that's a lot for a child. Stability is the key factor for growth in a child's life. So it was very much difficult for her to probably feel anchored, feel loved, feel wanted. And some of these may have created insecurities, which may have allowed a type of individual to come into her life to manipulate those.
Yeah.
So we now know that the moon's placement it's good, but it's also some qualifying factors that definitely bring some challenges with it. But the other thing is that her ascendant lord is aspected by the sun. So it also gives her another strong level of personality.
Mm-hmm.
These are the subtleties when we begin to look at different charts, just to see why this person would be more resilient than necessarily that person. Well, her sun is at 11 degrees Scorpio. Her moon's at 14 degrees Taurus. That's practically a full moon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's close. Yeah, that's right.
Right? So not only is it a full moon, which then even further, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it shines light to the ascendant. It gives confidence. It gives self-assurity. It removes a lot of the insecurities. So really low. No, and if you watch Angela Bassett play that role, she did play a little shy role. She kind of plays shy first. Cancers can be known to be internal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Once they come out of their shell, watch out. But they can be internal. They could be, more reserved than the fire or air signs, because it's water. So, showing that in kind of rendition of that movie that gave the rendition of her life, you see some of the shyness, but you also see that bold personality as well.
Yeah.
It's a mixture. So moving from that, right, we got some qualifying factors. Shows strong personality, definitely ability to interact with others well, has self-confidence, but also has some tendencies to be shy, and maybe even some issues around or centered around feeling loved or wanted, especially by the mother. Now moving deeper in, right, now we see that the ascendant is aspected by Jupiter. This removes 1,000 evils. Jupiter in any strong placement, whether it be a Kendra or Chacon house, it literally blesses the chart. It just blesses you. Even if you go through something, you're something like an angel on your shoulder. You get out, you get through unscathed, right? Or you might be scathed, but you're not damaged to the point where you can't recover. So Jupiter gives these kind of blessings, and she was raised in a very spiritual upbringing with regards to her grandparents and so forth. So that Jupiter aspect in the ascendant always gives some type of religious purview in the beginning of life. You've got something similar. Would you say that would be the case?
I do. I have that exact placement. Yeah.
Right. Did you grow up in some type of religious? So I mean, for Americans not to is kind of more strange than anything, but I would imagine somewhere in your immediate environment, Jesus, church, something was there.
It was
right?
there. It was definitely there. I've always had like a spiritual disposition. You know, I got something else sitting there, so it made it a little.
That changes it.
Yeah, it changed it, but it was always always had that type of disposition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so does she, and we're gonna see exactly how that kind of pans out. So, moving into the moon, we kind of talked about the moon, but let's talk a little bit more about the moon. So we dealt with the ascendant, which is the body. Let's deal with the mind. So the mind is now strong, right? Good memory, right? Excellent reflective power, right? Able to adapt, right? But still stable. That's what the moon in exaltation does. It gives you a very strong mind. The moon is full. That adds even more strength to the mind. So being born in a full moon, my daughter's born in a full moon. Very outgoing, very loving, but very emotional too. Right? Because the moon is lit up, right? So all your emotions kind of come to the surface. Right? When the moon is dark, you got a lot of subconscious stuff going on. Moon is bright, right? The subconscious is rendered conscious, right? Because the light is shown onto the subconscious. The moon is more like your subconscious, right?
Yeah.
Because it's your child. If the moon represents your childhood, and let's look at her childhood, moon is there, but guess what? There's a planet aspecting that moon. Good old Mars. We got a Chandra Manga Yoga, y'all. Right.
Man,
Chandra Manga Yoga. Now we can talk about some more fiery, zealous resistance. Right? La resistance through the moon. Right? She ain't no punk.
Yeah.
That's why I had a problem. Right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch the movie, you know, you remember the baby mamas or whatever, the wives or whatever, they just kind of like, you know, like there, right? But anime, right? Anime was no joke. Like, she did a lot, she cared a lot, and you could see she cared for kids that weren't even hers.
Yeah.
Right? That's that Cancer energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that moon is solid, able to withstand a lot of stuff. But at the same time, right, that Mars aspect in that moon gives her a fiery streak. And you're only going to do so much for so long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It can take a lot. It can take a lot because of that moon's exaltation. But it has its limitations because it's got a fiery edge what will break and say, I can't do it anymore, and snap.
Yeah.
We saw that.
I mean, I've always been around women with that Chandra Mangala yoga, almost or very what would you call it? Mangalit chart, very Mars, very prevalent.
Mangalit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they will not. They take up so much,
mm-hmm.
and then it's a wrap.
Yeah,
it's a wrap. Don't even go there no more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I used to date, I see a Chandra Mangala yoga, I run.
You said. Okay.
And it worked every time.
You said.
Because I would sit there and I would be like, nah, I'm cool on you, or you know, we date, we can hang, you know, and all of a sudden, man, a snap out of nowhere. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you? And I'm like, oh, there's the Chandra Mangala yoga. So, you know, it's not to say people that can't have relationships. By all means, that's not true. Because you have to look at all the factors, moon, sun, everything. 7th Lord, 7th house, all that. But just take it to the bank. That when there's a Chandra Mangala yoga, don't push them too far. You're going to get flack back pretty good. So showing that again, very strong mind, very strong mentality. Not to take too much mess, but definitely can be strong, sturdy, and withstand a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Moon in the 11th house, guess what it does? Let's talk about it. So the 11th house, in regards to Jiva and non-Jiva, right? Jiva is living. Every house has a Jiva and non-Jiva respect to it. Every house has a living aspect and a non-living aspect. Your first house is you as the living aspect, your physical vehicle, your body. The non-living aspect is your personality. Right? The living aspect of the second house is your family. The non-living aspect is your values and your resources, your savings. Each house has a jiva living and non-living aspect. The 11th house, the living aspect for the 11th house is the elder siblings. Well, she has 2 older female elder siblings. Hello.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about y'all, but just to me, that just, like, wow. Wow. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, we're seeing that elder siblings are women, right? Showing it, 2 older siblings, women, in the 11th. Perfect. That's why her chart is just so easily discussable, because it like falls into place perfectly.
Yeah.
But a moon in the 11th house also has things that flow very easily for them. They get support out of very odd places, and things can come up, and people will help. People will help. Supported female friends. In fact, I think in the movie, if I'm correct, it was a female friend that showed her and led her to Buddhism. Did you recall that?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie, but I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive. I'm pretty positive that was the case. About 100% sure, in fact. And I don't know how true that is with regards to her biographical accuracy of it. But the movie definitely showed a woman that was a friend putting her up on some knowledge.
Yeah.
So again, just showing, right, these placements. Now moving deeper in, right, we talked a little bit about the moon, and of course it is in Rohini, right? Rohini is definitely, right, one of the most beneficial placements for the moon. Of course, that's where it's Kritika is technically the exaltation, but it's right on the. It's closer to the moon being in Rohini. Still is very powerful because Rohini is ruled by the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives an added extra benefit to the moon's placement there.
Yeah.
But it just means that this person definitely will have a propensity for beauty. Will be very attractive, right? Very alluring, right? Very much not having a problem with getting the opposite sex. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So, the moon shows this. Moving in from the moon, the mindset, into the sun, which is the core of who you are, the bearings of what you need to make things whole in life, what you are supposed to achieve when you exit this particular realm. The sun shows those propensities. And the sun being in Scorpio now shows a person that is here to deal with transformations. This person is here to deal with sudden shifts in the life pattern to where it calls attention to the core of who you are.
Yeah.
And ruling the second house, a lot of that transformation came in through the family. If you look at her very early ages, there was a lot of changes in her life. I believe she stayed with her mother, her grandmother, because the mother didn't want responsibilities. When that happened, the grandma died, right? So she ended up back with her mother. She was in nightclubs at a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, considering back in the 50s, that probably wasn't a big deal, but still in all, this is a young woman, growing up fast.
Yeah.
Making things manifest based on her talents and abilities and gifts. And the moon in the 11th house in Taurus, y'all, gives some very powerful musical propensities. Very powerful. Because the moon is aspecting the 5th house as well.
Yeah.
Which is creativity, right?
Yep.
So she definitely musically gifted, without a doubt. Right? In fact,
aspecting the 2nd and 3rd lord.
Exactly. And then not only that, it's her personality that connects it, her physical body. So this shows, right, this woman is definitely here to deal with some seriously powerful stuff, but she can take it. She can take it. She's built to last. And she's here. She outlived Ike, y'all. So that tells you something.
Yeah.
Right. But moving into the sun, right? It's in the 5th house. The 5th house is the house of creative expression. Right. So this person's soul yearned for the expression of the inner atmosphere of who she is. It yearned to get it out. That's the sun in the 5th. Very creative, very smart, very, very, very ingenious when it comes to trying to solve problems. The sun in the 5th house is the Leo is the natural sign for the 5th house. So it's almost like in its own house, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely gives her a strong disposition to also protect the children as well. She definitely will protect children. And, well, looking at the 5th house as that Jiva item, right? Jiva is children in the 5th house. And her sons, she had sons, she had no daughters.
Yeah.
So you can clearly see elder siblings, boom, perfect match. Children, males, perfect match. I mean, everything lines up so very well. Right? Now, the sun also in Anuradha, it talks about literally being able to be a bridge maker or a connector between forces that may be opposing or forces that may not be on the same wavelength. And Anuradha is the sign that allows us to transform those negatives into positives. Any type of opposition can become a friend. Any person that's an enemy can become a friend through the Anuradha energy.
Yeah.
So you can see these things, right? I mean, bar none. And there's many more placements. We just won't go into everything. But the sun being in that position definitely calls her soul to answer its own questions, to find the truth. The 5th house is a house of truth. So this person is a truth seeker in a way. And it's aspected by Jupiter simultaneously. Very powerful. Right? So, we kind of just delineated her right quick. Break her down, body, mind, and soul. You can see this is who she is. But when we get further into the chart, now we want to start looking at some things that kind of were telltale signs that this is who and what we're dealing with. And we've already had some so far.
Yeah.
Let's look at some that really call home to Tina's life, which is good old Ike. And we're going to start off in looking at the relationship and the relationship house to show what happened in the relationship. If I didn't know her and I met her and I did her chart, I'd say you have some challenges and issues with abuse in relationship. Why would I say that? Well, go ahead, brother.
7th Lord, debilitated.
Yeah.
Conjunct K2.
Yeah.
Almost within 2 degrees too. They're close.
I got 4, but it could be, I see 2 as well. Depending on which placement, what time frame we put it in. But it's so close. It's unarguable. So the 7th Lord is the 7th house, is the house we look for marriage, long-term commitments, promises, and so forth. And you can see that the 7th Lord, which is Saturn, is debilitated in the 10th house. So this means that the person's mate definitely was in the limelight. In the limelight, in the sense of trying to push or prod or go beyond certain ring past knots that probably weren't intended to be pushed beyond. And Ike is famous for his relentless approach to things.
Yeah.
Right? So you can see Ike through the 7th house. Now, it's debilitated, so that means that its functioning ability to be a good husband is thwarted. So the opposite of a good one is obviously a bad one. Right? And you can see that she was abused through this placement.
Yeah.
The Jiva item for the 7th house is the mate, the husband. The husband is defunct, devoid, no power, no staying power, no can't resist pressure, can't take pressure, right? Can't take harsh realities, wants to shade away from the real way of dealing with things and take shortcuts.
Yeah.
That's like. So, and anytime Saturn's in Aries, it wants to take shortcuts. Y'all, that's a little, just FYI, Saturn in Aries shortcuts. Right? So, the husband wants to take shortcuts, but at the same time is very abusive, very restrictive, very domineering, very overbearing. That's all the 7th Lord being debilitated. That's what it does. Now, to add in, the ascendant, the 7th Lord is in the sign of Aries, which then further fuels that particular propensity to be physically abusive.
Yeah.
Right? So, you can see Ike. Ike is right there. All day. Right?
Intense.
So, you can see that right now. You know, I just like to use different people to kind of pull out the chart and kind of highlight it, and you know, really can have some fun with it. But let's see here. So she started off right, and we're going to talk about some time frames now. Really getting into her life and her disposition with regards to how it began. What was the life like as it began to? She started. And so, if you concur, I have her starting off at a moon dasha.
Yep.
Okay. And so, right off the bat, right, we noticed that Anna Mae's ability when she starts off, it's probably calling attention to her where she was a very quick learner. She recognized things with regards to her abilities as a young person very quickly because it's starting off in her personality. The planet that rules her personality is starting off. Each little thing that changes with regards to how those dasha periods start, it tells a lot about the personalities as well.
Yeah.
Because this is how the person carved themselves out into this particular manifestation, what we call Tina Turner or Richard Pryor or whoever. They carved themselves out, where they were beginning to carve themselves out immediately based on the ascendant when she was born. Strong little girl. Right? Probably had a mouth on her too, I would bet, with that Mercury and Scorpio. Right?
Yeah.
Right? So, you see, we can see the childhood. We can see how she started off. You ask anybody around her, was she a strong-willed little girl? Yes, she was. Oh, Tina was something. That's what they would tell you, I'm sure. Tina was something. Right? So, you must understand when you start off this way, and actually, it's a good start. Right? It's a good start. It's not a great start. It's a good start because the person will come in with some bead of who they are at a very early age, and then they can build from that and become very much more oriented towards who they are because they started off doing it.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, they moved around a lot. You know, and the moon is a planet that moves. I mean, they all move, but the moon moves quicker than any other planet. Right? So, there you see the moving. Even though moon is strong, the moon itself, because it fluctuates, it's going to show a fluctuating life.
Yeah.
In the beginning. Right? And so as a young girl, right, she, you know, was kind of forced to stay with different people, all family still, but still very much not what you would consider go to school, have your parents, average, so-called average, normal American life, right? It was not one that was commensurate with what we would consider as being picturesque.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and even in fact, it says that she recalls picking cotton with her family at a very early age. But guess what she was doing? Picking it with family.
Yeah.
And the sun, which is the second house, Lord, aspects the ascendant, Lord, which is the moon. So you see right there, a very early age, right? The connection with the family is very strong, even though unstable. So, this is when you begin into the subtleties of things, like the nuances of astrology in people's lives that can be read through this.
Yeah.
She moves into a Mars Dasha, right? In the Mars Dasha, right, shows that, as a young child, she definitely went through some more stuff because Mars is in the 8th house.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at between 6 and 13, again, right, when she was 11, her mother Zelma ran off without warning, seeking freedom from her abusive relationship, right, with a gentleman, and she moved to St. Louis. So at 11 years old, Mama up and left. Mama was a Rolling Stone. Well, look at 11. In 11 is a Mars K2 period. Mars is in the 8th house. K2 rules the ruler of Mars. K2 conjuncts the ruler of Mars. This is a sudden severing of something. And that severing happened within a tumultuous environment, which was she wasn't abused, but it wasn't stable.
Yeah.
Right. So, moving into from the Mars Dasha, right, until about 13 years of age, she began the Rahu Dasha. This is when she began to literally come into her role as Tina Turner. Right. Well, how do you see that, Ra? Like, what do you see with the Rahu Dasha? Well, Rahu's in the 4th house, number one. Right? And so the 4th house, right, is the house of home. So she's still a young girl. Well, not fairly young, but a young lady.
Yeah.
Still at home. Right? Well, if I'm correct, right, she moved back with her mother, right, right around she's about 13 and 14, right? So it's kind of like showing that same connection right back, right? When she was 16, excuse me, I'm sorry. She was 16, and even at the age of 16, you can clearly see she's in a Rahu Dasha, Rahu Jupiter Dasha to be exact.
Yeah.
So Rahu is in how many places from Jupiter? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 6th placement from those two planets creates some type of obstacle or challenge or frustration in that time period. And I'm sure it was frustrating to have to move back with your mother after you've been acquiesced by your grandparents who are religious, spiritual, and so forth.
Yeah.
Now, bringing us up to further, bring us further up as far as these dashas are concerned. When the Rahu Dasha period, that's when she met Ike.
Yep.
In the 50s, right? But guess what? She's in a Rahu period. Rahu becomes the ascendant. Whenever you look at a dasha, you want to make the planet the ascendant many times to get a purview of what's going on. And 7th from Rahu, right, is K2, and K2's conjunct the 7th lord of the natal chart of the Rasi placement.
Yeah.
There's the marriage right there. In the Rahu Dasha. Right? So again, showing this person. Now Rahu in the 4th house, what else does it do? Well, it creates an inflation. Rahu inflates. He spreads. He expands. Not expand in the sense of like Jupiter, but expands in the sense of to bring something, to spread it so far, it literally either loses his power or has to reshift or recapitulate into something else. That's what Rahu can do. So because it's transformed, it likes to change and wear different masks. So Rahu in the 4th house also made her grow up early. She wanted to get out of the home early.
Yeah.
You see that?
Mm-hmm.
What better way than to do that than the planet that is in opposition to that Rahu conjunct Ketu, which is the 7th lord through marriage. So that's how she got out of marriage. That's how she got out of home fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the movie. I mean, this stuff is real. Stuff is real. The 4th lord is in the 6th house. So that means that when she met him, the ruler of the 4th is in the 6th. So whatever happened at that period of time is going to also bring some challenges. Some victimization, some unsavory circumstances. Things that will definitely wake you up.
Yeah.
Right? So now we see, right, Rahu appear, and she gains a lot of success during the Rahu Dasha. A lot of success. Right? But by way of her husband. Right? Because of the duo type deal. Right? And so, you know, a lot of things that came out during the 60s. I mean, and let's just put it like this. Right? You mentioned earlier, like the 2nd and 3rd lord in the 5th house creates that propensity for music. It does. Right? But Rahu being in the 4th house, right, opens the opportunity for her to be unorthodox and in a position that probably wouldn't be savory to her family or to who she loves. And that also came out in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it also shows a mother that will use you too. Rahu in the 4th can have a mother that will use you. She'll use you to leapfrog. Whoa. See, Rahu likes to leapfrog. He wants to get from 0 to 100 in 2.3 seconds. He wants to be the master of all masters without doing the master's work.
Yeah. And
so Rahu in the 4th shows a mother that can use her to get a leg up. See, this is, you start to see, right? She wants to get out of home. Right? She wants to expand faster than the 4th house is willing to allow.
Yeah.
She wants to grow up fast. That's what it means. My mother has a very similar placement. She grew up very early. Know a lot of people, not a lot of sisters with this placement. Not to say they're fast, but they just grow up. They grow up fast. They grow up faster. They have to deal with more things. Their home life is expanded beyond their capacity.
Yeah.
So you see that during these time frames, we can see these things, right? Now, during the 70s, not during the 70s, during the 60s, that's when she, began to really come into her own as a performer, but it was always attached to something else. It was never just her. It was later, but originally she was part of some other organization or group, and that's where that moon in the 11th house shows that literally that group type of thing did very well for her. It gave her the ability to perform well. Mm-hmm. Because it's like a symphony. It's like a synchronization. Tina's not a great singer to me. She can sing, but she's not one that I would call home to say that's like a Beyonce or Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
But her soulful singing is seen through the sun in the 5th. That Scorpio, rough, like that, give it to you raw. I mean, they have some series like other than Proud Mary. There's another one, Eye of the Spider. I think it's what it's called. Just the singing, way she brought it was raw.
Yeah.
That's Scorpio. And wait, her voice, anytime you want to know the voice, one of the things you want to look at is Mercury as a Karaka. It's in Scorpio. Mm-hmm. Kind of a raspy singer, kind of a little raspy.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how you begin to see that stuff. So, moving into the dashas, now we're going to leave Rahu. We know she's got fame. We know she's married to Ike, Big Ike Turner, bad boy on the block, She moves into Jupiter dasha. And Jupiter is a planet that when you go through his dasha, you're going to wake up. it's almost like someone turned the lights on. Like, whoa, what happened? Right? And in this period, for the first good half of it, maybe not half, but let's say 5 to 6 years and 7 years in, right? This is when Jupiter began to heal, right? And healing is not always comfortable. Jupiter began to remove the smoke from her eyes, which Rahu cast, right? Seeing that this brother here ain't worth that drove him in, right? He's a problem. So Jupiter is like a nagging conscience. Like, you should be leaving. It's called the voice of God to some of us that can hear it, right?
Yeah.
Some of us get the word, some get the voice, some get both, right? This is God trying to say, anime, get out. And she did just that. In 1976 is when she began to actually pull away from Ike. And in the movie rendition of her life, it shows that they had a major dog out fight, right? And this happened in 1976.
Yeah.
Well, she's in Jupiter Dasha. In fact, it happened July 1st, 1976. Right? So she had just entered into her Jupiter-Mercury Dasha period. Well, guess what, y'all? See, then we can start to say, okay, no, so Jupiter's in the 9th house, giving her this conscience, this voice, this drive to get out of this bad situation. And then Mercury, which is the planet that rules the 3rd and the 12th house, says it's time for the Cancer to sidestep. Because Cancers do that very well. If you ever watch a crab, they move side to side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she moves side and then side again to avoid further confrontation to deal with this individual called her husband. So it's showing you at this period the divine light hit and allowed her to do the 3rd house thing and the 12th house thing, right? To get out Dodge. But from a 5th house perspective, 9th house perspective, because Mercury is in the 9th house from Jupiter. That's how you read it. And guess what? Mercury is aspecting the moon, which is her personality, which is her physical body. She was tired. It was time to go. It's time to... The 12th house is where you rejuvenate, recoup.
Yeah.
That to me, when I saw, I was like, wow, thank you, my odd 687, right? Because, right, this is a really nice chart to read. I mean, it's really concise. It's just to the point. She gets a divorce in 78. She starts her Jupiter K2 Dasha in 78.
Yeah.
August 78. So the divorce hits. She's able to sidestep, and then boom, it's severed.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, this is how things work. Now, in the Jupiter Dasha period, Jupiter's in the 9th. Tina Turner, she classifies herself as a Buddhist.
Yeah.
Right? And so Buddhism was given to her, according to the movie by her friend. She could have found it on her own. I don't know the exact way she got it, but she did get it in 1973.
Mm-hmm.
Jupiter, Saturn, Dasha. Or it could be Jupiter as well, depending on what time she got it in 73.
Mm-hmm.
If she got it early 73, then it would have been right in that Jupiter Dasha, which then you can clearly see. Isn't that phenomenal? That the Supreme Being is like, here you go. So she already had Nam Myoho Renge Kyo before she left Ike.
Yeah,
she found it. You see what I'm saying?
Indeed. Yeah, you could tell this Jupiter Dasha was key, because also I don't know if you was gonna get into this, but according to the Parashara's definition of Lakshmi Yoga, she has that, and that activated during that time period. as well.
She does. Jupiter in the ninth in its own sign.
When it's in the Lord
It's
strong.
Lakshmi Yoga.
Yeah.
Yep. All day. So I mean, you pulled that out, and that shows you right there that dasha period is the one that set her free.
Yep.
I mean, come on, y'all, you just can't get no better than this. It just is right there. It's written like somebody wrote her life out, put her in the little body, and said, "Move on," and everything just unfolded as intended.
Yeah.
So
now, one more thing as far as the Buddhism thing, because I know a lot of people, you look at the two Jupiter ruled signs, Sag and Pisces. Would you say that because it's in Pisces is why it twinged towards Buddhism, versus if it was the other way, like maybe Sag, it might have been, solidified in Christianity or something like that?
Yeah, because Jupiter is in Uttara Bhadrapada, which is the serpent of the deep, and that is meditation. Buddhism focuses on meditation. They don't even tell you there's God. They say prove it for yourself. So absolutely, I would definitely qualify that as a position that would definitely put Buddhism as a mainstay.
Or some type of what people would classify today as more of a spiritual
approach than religious.
Yeah.
Absolutely, my brother. Yes, sir. You're right on the money with that. Definitely so. Definitely. Saturn aspect in the 12th house can also do some of that too. Because Saturn wants to shut down, and the 12th house is the house of reclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would suit her best, right? Definitely. So, moving in, going deeper, right? So, between 85 and 87, she has a Jupiter Dasha Sandhi. And Dasha Sandhis are kind of like the sunset, sunrise type deal of the dashas. And this is when things are shifting the most. These are things that are unstable. I mean, she already had instability throughout her life, but this time period is going to take her from one level to another.
Yeah.
Right? And so, excuse me, I'm looking at that and looking at what's going on. In the 80s is when she began to have her notoriety. Right? For herself, her own personal notoriety, not with Ike, but separated from Ike.
Yeah.
Right? Because remember the duo demise, they broke up in 76. So between 76 and 83, she had a solo career. She didn't do much. Right? She didn't really do much. Not during that time. But, right, in I think 83 is when she began to really reshift and capitulate herself. 84, she comes out with Private Dancer. Right? I'm your private dancer. Dancing. I mean, like that. that's a major song right there, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, 84, it hit. But she's in her Jupiter Dasha, about to get, and she didn't blow up yet. She's not major yet. She's just getting her feet reacclimated to what she is and who she is as an individual.
Yeah.
And so Jupiter's still kind of giving her the boons, if you will, the blessings of that Jupiter Dasha period, but it's not going to blow her up. It just was there to clear the air and to reset her, to really get back on the path of who she is. But in the Saturn Dasha period is when she begins to blow up. Now, she did blow up in 84 with What's Love Got to Do With It.
Yeah, that was
the real kicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, but if you really pay attention, because she did get awards and all that, but her stuff didn't really hit until the 80s, like mid-80s. So 85 is when she did Mad Max Thunderdome, right? And this is really, if y'all look at it, it's still in the Jupiter Dasha period. Right? But, right, in 86, right, 86, 87, that's when she began to kind of take her own self out and do her thing with regards to who she is as an individual. Not to say it didn't happen at the end of the Jupiter Dasha, but the Saturn Dasha kind of, from what I can see, really is a solidifying factor, and that's when things shifted. So that Saturn now is ruling the 7th, ruling the 7th and the 8th, in the 10th, and debilitation is not canceled, but it is offset. And what happens is that Parvatana Yoga between the 8th and the 10th house now is going to act like Saturn's in the 8th, right? And act like Mars is in the 10th. So now Mars is going to do the job of Saturn in the light of the career, in the light of having completion of what she feels as being like, you know what, I did it. I showed you I did it.
Yeah.
Right. She had a tour, a worldwide tour, in 87.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it says she yielded record-breaking sales. Right. So this is now Tina, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Tina as in her own prominence, as in her who she is, with the world to see. And the thing about it is that the only real reason why she became so phenomenal is because of the transformation that she went through her husband.
Yeah.
So the negative became a what?
Positive.
So the 8th Lord now yields his power to the 10th house, and the 10th Lord uses power to the 8th. So the transformation that she went through was so purifying and so recapitulating, reacclimating who she is as a person. Then the success hit. And I'm saying when I success, I'm talking about she's inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1991.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Interesting.
Her film came out in 1993 in Saturn Dasha.
Yes, that I mean, because that's deep when you look at that. Because if you don't look at that Parvatana, you would think that Saturn Dasha would be pretty ugly for her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's actually phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you see, this is how you begin to.
Now, would you say
look at it?
Maybe a lot of that because just the setup, she may have dealt with a lot of the karma that Saturn, that Saturn was bringing early. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when she hit the Dasha, that was already cleared out the way.
Already rolling, already ready to roll, man. Already ready to roll. So it was like I said, it was constructed for her.
Yeah, Mars is the Yoga Karka too for Cancer Ascendant.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. In the 8th house.
In
the 8th house. So you see, this is how we can begin to look at a chart and really just outline and delineate. And I haven't looked at transits, right? We haven't looked at that at all. And those would just be clear, concise aspects of the Dasha system. They work together in tandem so that you see them in concise. Boom, this is what this Saturn Dasha does because Saturn is transiting here at this time. Boom. So, during that Saturn Dasha, and she rolled that all the way out to 2006. And, we're looking at the same Tina Turner from 2006 on. And there's really not much we've heard from Tina because she's up there in age. She's in her 60s. And actually, she's in her 80s right
80s.
now.
Yeah, she's up there.
So,
but she's good.
In her 2000s. She's already had her career. She already had her heyday, right? When Mercury Dasha hit. So, definitely you can see the patterns.
And they say
in her life.
I did a little research on it, just seeing how much she's worth, including her catalog and everything. Got her about like 250 million.
Not bad. Moon in the 11th. Not bad. She ended up being very wealthy.
Yep.
You see? So phenomenal stuff, y'all. Phenomenal stuff. But we're going to stop there because we've been in the chart for a while. It's been about almost an hour. And so we just kind of want to leave off with this and that, these are the things that we begin to do when we want to start to learn our discipline, to start to fine tune our discipline, get a good solid chart and go through the dashas, go through the placements, go through the personality, go through the disposition, go through the makeup, and see how it correlates perfectly with the dashas, and how the dashas correlate perfectly with what's going on in real time as far as that person's life is concerned.
Absolutely. So yeah, we sliced that up pretty well. I want to remind everybody that, this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group and Caliprucia Astrology. Make sure you go follow both of us on those platforms and follow this podcast at Cosmic Convo, CosmicConvo. Cosmic Convo on Instagram, and hit us up and give us suggestions. This episode, like stated before, was suggested from our audience, so we do listen. Indeed, want this to be as interactive as possible. All right. So brother Rob, if you're good, you don't have any more parting words, man. Words. We can go ahead and close this one out.
Yeah, we could table this one right now. Just keep in mind, and I haven't gone into every detail and nuance in any way, shape, form, or fashion. We're just brushing over these to give our listeners, and hopefully maybe viewers at some point, the opportunity to really look at how this particular science works in a general sense of the word. I give you little tidbits, little things to do that you can go research and start to look at your own chart, friends' charts, family charts, famous people's charts, just to see, wow, that person was in this dasha and this happened, this person did this. So you'll start to see the consistencies and the power of the science that we use. So with that, I bid everyone adieu. Peace.
Peace.